Welcome back to the Let's Talk Baseball podcast. Ooh, does it feel good to say those words again? My name is Michael Herrera, joined by my good friend and co-host Jacob Payne. We are here with 1 week left in the regular season. It's gonna be a different episode. We're gonna have some storylines to watch out, some things to watch out for. Some things are clicking for teams. Finally, the right time. Is it too late? We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, we're excited. We're gonna release our postseason video schedule at the end of the video. But yeah, we're excited to get talking some baseball again. Let's get into it. Jacob, how you doing, my man?
Doing great. Been keeping up with the Dodgers baseball specifically, but watching these intense wild card races play out. Super excited to talk about that and what we're going to be looking for going into October baseball.
Absolutely. Are just right around the corner. It's crazy still to believe that there is only 1 week left in the regular season. We're not going to go through the standings per usual. I mean, you guys pretty much know where the standings are. The only really standings race for divisions that matter, of course, is the AL West, which is a big topic today. If you want to go into that, the Texas Rangers are technically in first right now, 85 and 68, with the Astros 85 and 69, and the Mariners 84 and 69. And here are your wild card pictures right now. Again, another main topic. So right now in the AL, you have Tampa Bay, who's clinched their spot. Toronto, who is 1 game up on Houston. Houston, who is half a game up on Seattle, who's currently out of the playoff picture. In the NL, Philly, they basically clinched their spot. It's hard to see them losing their spot in this postseason. Then you have the Diamondbacks. They've climbed a long way since we last talked. Half a game up on your Chicago Cubbies. What did I say at the beginning of the season? And then they are 1 game up on the Marlins. 2 games back are the Reds. 3.5 games back are the Gigantes. And 4.5 games back, Jacob, they're 4 games from being eliminated. They've won 8 in a row. They have a better run differential than 4 teams above them. The San Diego Padres are currently slated as expected win-loss to make the playoffs. That's insane. That basically means, though, with that L4 to the WCE to win, to lose, to get eliminated, they would need everybody else to completely fall off. They need to bang on us doing our part against the Giants this season. But you know what? We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, basically that's what's happening in your wild card standing. Speaking of the wild card, let's just dive into our first one, the more exciting one, in my personal opinion, the NL wild card. Jacob, this NL wild card has been shaped through a number of teams. It's been the Dodgers at one point. It's been the Reds at one point. It's been the Mets. I'm just kidding. I thought, I tried to get y'all there. But right now, yeah, Phillies are holding their spot. They're clicking. They're clicking at the right time. Trey Turner's doing his thing. He's back after that standing O against that series against the Royals. And they're looking to clinch. I don't know if it's tonight or when it is, but I think by the time this video might be out, they might have already clinched. So, congrats to Phillies if that does happen. But the main teams left in it, of course, are the Diamondbacks, Cubs, Marlins, Reds, Giants, and of course, we do have to talk about the looming Padres if that becomes a circumstance. I know, but hey, we need baseball. You never know what's gonna happen. So quickly, let's talk about this NL wildcard race, Jacob, because I feel like obviously there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams fighting for the final 2 spots, and this could change so much over the next couple of weeks. I mean, the Diamondbacks, they're getting hot at the right time. Corbin Carroll's back. I feel like the offense is for a lot of these teams. It's what's gonna get it done, and the pitching might not. And I feel like that might be the story for a lot of these teams. I'm gonna give my prediction on who makes the last 2 wildcard spots after what you're saying. But yeah, give us your thoughts, Jacob. What do you think about this race right
I mean, first of all, what we got going on with the wild card races, I mean, this is what you love about September baseball. You love the storylines, you love it being close. I'm sure none of these fan bases particularly love being in the spot that they are in right now. But the rest of us on the outside really love to see it come down to the wire. I mean, it's really crazy when you think about it that a 162 game season can lead to the final game and possibly an extra game on top of that. I just think that's awesome. It's great for baseball. It's great for fans. It makes for some interesting storylines going down the lines, and like you said, this NL wild card it's crazy. I know technically the Padres are still in there. I mean something would have to go catastrophically wrong for several of these teams
I mean,
for the
hey,
Padres to be back in there.
the goose was flying over Dodger Stadium last night. Manny Machado brought back Alfaro's Let's effing go San Diego last night. I mean, they're feeling themselves, and honestly, good for them for giving themselves to have something to fight for. I just think it's just too much, too late at this
I
point.
agree.
As much as you want the storyline to happen, as much as so many people were expecting this team to win the division, first of all, let alone make playoffs, it's just there's just not enough there. I mean, Darvish is. I don't even think he's coming back. I don't know if Musgrove's come back yet. Snell, I mean, he's gonna win the Cy Young, but that's just a different story. Lugo, I mean, like their rotation for the playoffs would be Snell, Lugo, Michael Waka, and Rich Hill, I think. So I don't know if you believe in that. I mean, you can believe in your offense, but for how much? They do have one of the least competitive schedules though. They won last night against the Cardinals 4-2. They played 2 more against the Cardinals, 3 against the Giants, and 3 against the White Sox. And we all know how we feel about the White Sox here on this channel. But I mean, they have something to fight for. But like you said, some things would have to go catastrophically wrong for a lot of these teams. But we'll see where we're at the end of the weekend. If the Dodgers take the next 2 against the Giants, then we might be talking about a whole different story. But Padres, we'll see how you are. But yeah, the rest of the wild card, it's gonna be interesting, Jacob. I mean, you have the Marlins. They lose Sandy Alcantara for the year. Yuri Perez goes on the IL. He's done for the year. They just got beat up by the Brew Crew last night. They clinched. Miami going into the final games of the stretch. They have a tough stretch. They have the Brew Crew, then they have the Mets and the Pirates. So give or take that as you will. The Red schedule, I'm not 100% sure. Let me pull that up right now. Let's move into the Giants real quick. The Giants schedule, they have some guys doing it, some guys not. They have Dodgers, Padres, Dodgers. I think the way they fared this year and on the road, need I tell you, there's just not been doing well. The Reds face the Pirates, Guardians, Cardinals. So you might be able to believe in some Reds baseball there. De La Cruz Rookie of the Year. Nope. Look at his stats. Look at Matt McClain's stats. He should win, but that's a different topic. The Cubbies, man, they're there. They're in it. I've been saying it. I wanted this team to make the playoffs, not just because of Bellinger, but because I like the way this team is constructed. They called up Jared Young back up yesterday. He hits a bomb. Stroman starts for the first time today. I think he started in a while after that cracked a rib or that fractured whatever he had. But it's just a lot of question marks. Like same thing for the Cubs. The rotation would be Steele. I mean, obviously Cy Young candidate. Tyone, who's pulled it together, but then a questionable Stroman, a questionable Smiley, and a Kyle Hendricks, who is 34, is throwing. He's having a good year, but how much can you rely on him? Their schedule down the stretch, Jacob. It would be. Drumroll, please. Sorry, my computer is.
I believe it's the Rockies, the Braves, and the Brewers.
Yeah, that's tough. You guys, that's teams
Yeah.
that you want to believe, but that's just tough, Jacob.
You know what really sucks for the Cubbies is they just had a series with the Pirates that they were really looking to sweep and help get some games in the bank, and they
lost
dropped 2 of
2.
3. Yeah, brutal
that-
stuff.
I think at the last game of the Pirates, they had lost 10 of their last 15 or something. Just not going well. Things that are going well, Jacob. The Snakes, they're on it, but same thing. I mean, your rotation is Zach Gallen, a questionable health-wise Merrill Kelly, Zach Davies, who throws an 88 fastball with a 6.81 ERA, Brandon Pfaadt with a 6.08 ERA, Ryan Nelson with a 5.30 I don't know. I mean, the offense is there. Carroll's coming back to life. Marte is doing it. Gabriel Moreno. Ooh, there was a stat that came out the other day. I'll try to find it if I can. Talking Baseball released it, but it was basically saying that with Gabriel Moreno and without Gabriel Moreno, this Diamondbacks team, has been very, very, very different. So that's gonna be something to look out for. But I mean, he's been so much. They treated him for Dalton Varsho, Jacob, their guy they thought was gonna be the next guy, and look how awful his season's been. with the Blue Jays, and they also got Lourdes Gurriel in that trade. And so they definitely won that. Tommy Pham has been doing good. They kind of a heartbreaking story. They DFA their Roberto Clemente Award nominee, Nick Ahmed. He's been with the team 10 years. That's like they call up their kid, however, Jordan Lawler. They called him up. He's been trying to make that postseason roster. I don't know if he can or if he will. There's been some guys doing it all around the field for them, but just again, so many questions for a lot of these teams. Like if I had to choose based on strength of schedule and how I think these teams are, I think I think Diamondbacks make the playoffs, and I think the last spot is going to come down to the Cubs and the Marlins. I don't know how far down the stretch we can see the Marlins be going, but the Marlins, I mean, they still have Luzardo, Braxton Garrett, who are having better seasons than last year's Cy Young. Then they have some guys that control it. The Mets, obviously, they've had a little bit of success. Obviously, too late. They've been eliminated from playoff contention, by the way, last night. So that was funny. And then the Pirates, dude. So I don't know. Who do you believe? Because there's some guys hot, there's some guys not. Who do you believe with this wild card?
Well, I think for sure. I think you can obviously slot the Phillies in.
Yeah, I think you
It would
can
have
pencil
to
them
be
in.
it would have to be just a catastrophic failure for the Philadelphia Phillies to not make the playoffs
It would be
at this stage of the
it
game.
would be a Kyle Schwarber season for the Phillies, where they get 45 home runs and a 189 average,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, honestly, yeah, that would be what is required for them to drop it at this point. And genuinely, I think the San Francisco Giants and the Padres are going to be missing out on the playoffs. I think like we've talked about with San Diego, too little, too late. At this point, for them to make the playoffs, not only do they have to be just about perfect down the stretch, they need teams to fail. And you just can't count on that.
Can't bank on that.
Is there a logistical possibility? Yes, but do I believe it's going to happen? No. And same thing for San Francisco. San Francisco's got to be really great down the stretch. They have a lot of games against the Dodgers, which granted, the Dodgers don't have to win these games. I think the Dodgers are still going to try and be competitive because they have to gear up for playoff baseball.
Absolutely.
And so and then they have to and then they have to face the San Diego Padres, which somebody has to come out the loser of those games. So it's those last two spots in the wild card in my eyes are definitely coming down to Arizona, Chicago, Miami, and Cincinnati. And with that being said, I think the Diamondbacks make it, and I'm trying to convince myself why the Cubs are going to make it over Miami. I'm just not 100% sure because
There's too many questions there, and I feel like
be,
with the
a lot of
Marlins,
these
there's
teams,
less.
I mean, you can look at all three of these teams. They're feast or famine. You know, they're going into games and they're dominating, or they're going into games and they're getting shut out. And Chicago dropping 2 to the Pirates just really throws this up into the air for me, because had they swept the Pirates, and had they go on to hopefully sweep the Rockies,
Had they swept the Pirates, Jacob, they'd be in the second wild card right now.
and we'd probably be having this conversation, flipped, where we would say the Chicago Cubs are probably pretty solid for the wild card, and the Arizona Diamondbacks would be the ones fending off that last spot. But and I'm not even gonna say it's out of the question of the Cincinnati Reds getting hot right at the end, because they've got a lot of rookies. And the thing about rookies are they could be really cold at times, but they could get really hot at times. And if they all kind of strike fire at the same time, this Reds team could kind of come out of nowhere. It's gonna be really interesting
I
going down the
want to
stretch.
believe in the Reds. I do. I just don't think. I think
I
there's
think
too
they're a
many.
fun team.
I think they're a fun team. I think there's just too many rooks, and I don't. Ellie De La Cruz has a below 700 OPS now, where it's like their pitching is a question mark. I mean, Hunter Green got 14 Ks the other day, but I don't know.
That's why I really wish the Reds would have been a little bit more.
And I think everyone wishes that.
I think if they would have been a little bit more aggressive during the trade deadline, they could have shored up their pitching a little bit.
They picked up Bader and Renfro during that waiver sale, but then they DFA'd Renfro because he was struggling. Bader goes on the IL, so it's just like it's still like nothing really happened there. So
Right, right. And it's tough. I think maybe they thought that they'd be a little bit further out of this position, than being so competitive down the stretch, and maybe that's why they didn't go so hard. Or maybe they just said, look, we're gonna take this squad that we have, and we're either gonna make it or we're not. Which I mean, hey, I can't say that that's the wrong move. I can say that they definitely are doing it better than the team that paid so much during the off season to get a team of superstars that didn't make it. San Diego. Um, but what I love about this wild card race is it's up in the air. I mean, it's completely up in the
it's
air.
completely up in there. And I think
Some
honestly,
of these
Jacob,
teams, some of these teams have harder schedules, but that doesn't really rule them
mean
out.
anything exactly.
It's
Jake,
crazy.
what's also crazy is the Cubs basically decide this entire thing because here's why, Jacob. They don't win a single tiebreaker unless it's the Giants or the Padres. The Reds have the tiebreakers on them, the Marlins have the tiebreakers on them, and the D-backs have the tiebreaker on them. So they would need to actually fully have a better record than everybody else. Um, the Marlins, they have a tiebreaker over the Cubs, the Reds. I think that's all. Yeah. And the Phillies have a tiebreaker against everybody but the Marlins. So I mean that's where you think like okay maybe you believe in the Reds a little bit more. They're up on the Cubs. They're up on the Marlins. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like you want to believe in these teams, but I think we'll see where this Cubs if the Cubs sweep or at least win the series against the Rockies. We'll be talking about the Cubs are in or Marlins and Reds. Here's the last week.
Yeah, especially with the Cubs having to play the Braves and the Brewers at the end. I mean, again, the Braves, they don't necessarily need to win any more games, but I would like to imagine that they're still going to be competitive going into this last week, gearing up for playoff baseball. And then you have the Brewers, who still need to fight for their dominance in the Central. They're always a tough team to play, and they have to play them in Milwaukee. Um, uh, uh, if if we're being honest, giving the Cubs a game, maybe two against the Brewers, and then a game, maybe two against the Braves, um, you really have to take advantage of this Rocky series. Like
Yeah.
you
You
need you need
you need
all
to
of them.
sweep. Yeah. I mean, hey, they Braves lose Max Fried, so for a little bit, kind of what happened with Spencer Strider last year. So maybe they're looking at that like, hey, let's try to attack them as much as we can without one of their best guys. I don't know, man. Go Cubs, go! We'll see where you guys are at. The division, probably the most exciting race overall, Jacob. But I race I said was going to come down to the wire. The AL West, Jacob. We didn't expect the Rangers to be anywhere near this equation. We thought sure maybe they can have an Orioles-esque last year record in them. Nor did we think I don't think at least we thought they would be first in the AL West right now. I think the exact standings for how far they're separated. Let me double check on that. Currently, Texas has a half a game lead over Houston and a 1 game lead over Seattle. They all have Houston and Seattle have the same exact losses, and Texas and Houston have the same exact wins. It's crazy to me to think because it's also it kind of ties in. We have to talk about the Blue Jays here too because of the fact that three between the Blue Jays, Texas, Houston, and Seattle, one of these teams isn't making the playoffs. Let that sink in. Let that sink in, Jacob.
I find it funny that there are three teams vying for the top in the AL West, and one of them could possibly miss out on playoffs. That's insane to me. We've got four teams. We've got a division leader spot and two wild card spots open. The fourth one's gonna have to miss it. The question is, who's going down. Because if you look at recent results, you've got Texas going 6-4 in their last 10. You've got Toronto going 6-4 in their last 10. You got Seattle going 5-5, and you have Houston
Exactly.
3-7 in their last 10. That is just that's outstanding to me.
Like
That's crazy.
your mind obviously goes to, oh, it's the Astros. They got this, but do they? I mean, going into they face the Royals, which they lost last night's game and are currently losing 1-0.
You
Then they
can't
face, you can't do that.
you cannot lose to the Royals.
Then they face,
We were
sorry.
talking about the Cubs losing to the Pirates and the Rockies.
Yeah,
Like you can't be Houston in this position and lose to the Royals.
you
You
can't.
just can't.
You can't.
Not this close. Like if they had the division all locked up with a bow on it, then okay, lose to whoever you want. But the Rangers and the Mariners, they're not going away easy. They're not they're not getting shooed off like you thought they would.
I think the best schedule wise remaining would be the Rangers. I mean, they have the tiebreaker. Let's talk about this AL West tiebreakers first of all before we continue the rest of our conversation. So the tiebreakers right now, AL West, the Mariners are 8-2 against the Astros. So if they tie, basically Mariners have that. They have it up on the Blue Jays. I think if I'm reading this right, yes. Yeah, because of interdivision record. But they're 1-6 against the Rangers. Now, the only way this changes, there's 6 remaining. They would have to sweep the Rangers in both series, which I highly doubt is gonna happen. When you have the Rangers' hottest offense, one of the best, they called up a kid Evan Carter, and he's been amazing. He might fit into their postseason plans. I don't know. Mariners again, Astros. They have it up on the Rangers. They have their tiebreaker up on the Rangers. They do not have the tiebreaker on the Blue Jays, Jacob.
You
Blue
know, it's a simple case of rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock. You know, you've got tiebreakers over one team and not over the other team, but they have the tiebreaker over you and not the other. I mean,
It's wild.
it's so great that these competitive seasons. I mean, it sucks, but it's also the beauty of baseball that one of these teams is going to miss playoffs. Um, and it's crazy because it could be one of the teams that still has a pretty decent chance at the number one spot in the division.
That's wild.
It's
That's
crazy to me.
wild. And the Mariners, Jacob, that's all they face. They go Rangers, Texas. I think they go Rangers, Houston, Rangers. I think in that order.
They can buy a house in Texas for the next week.
Right now,
that's where they're gonna be.
I
That's
think
where they're
it's
gonna be
top of
hanging
the.
out.
I think it's top of the third inning. Texas is winning 1-0. Texas won last night. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, Texas faces the Angels between the Mariners series. So if you want to talk about that, that's something to look out for. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think the Mariners are also, they have to be talking to the Angels and be like, you need to win the series. I don't know. It's just
Please,
please
for
win
us.
the series. It's just wild. I mean, Julio is going to be top 3 in MVP voting. We love that. I think that was your prediction for the season. I don't know, man. I feel like it's the same thing with them. It might be too little. I don't want to. It's not even too little because they have guys
they're only a half game out of the wild card. I believe they're one game back of the Texas Rangers for the lead in the division. I mean, it is wide open. And I think of all the teams, Seattle controls their destiny.
I 100% agree.
100% they play everybody in front of them that is in front of them. And they can very well decide to go out, dominate, make the playoffs, or go out, flop, miss the playoffs. I think it's really dependent on them. Obviously, if Toronto bows out, then the other two teams doesn't matter if they win the division, they'll make playoffs, and seeding will come from that. but I think Seattle is the team that you can look at and say, all right, guys, it's on you. It's on you guys to go out there and either win games and make playoffs or lose and miss it. And this would be devastating if we're talking about this, in about a week from now, and saying that Seattle had just missed out because they couldn't beat the Astros or the Rangers. Which, I mean, going into the season, we thought that Houston would have the clear 1 seed, and then it would be a complete dogfight for second, third, possibly fourth in that division. It's kind of that way, except instead of somebody being locked in the 1 seed, we've got 3 teams in a dogfight for one,
Bro,
two,
all
three.
of them.
Who cares about 4 and 5 in that division? They don't even
They
exist
don't
anymore.
exist. They don't exist. Shohei's gone.
But
Trout might get traded. That's gonna be an interesting thing we talk about in the
I
offseason.
cannot wait for this offseason, man. It's
It's
gonna
gonna
be
be.
it's gonna be nuts.
We might have to
It's gonna
have
be absolutely
we might
nuts.
have to have Michael come on here and other Michael and talk about the Angels.
I think what's even more crazy is that now that Shohei is basically ruled out of pitching until 2025, he can get a very small and reasonable deal from just about any team that wants
That's
him
so true. I
to
feel
be a
like
DH hitter the entire
I feel
season.
like this is gonna look. I feel like his contract might look a lot like Correa's, where there has to be, or like Degrom's, or there has to be some amount of games or innings pitched for in order for like the next option.
Oh
I think
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
I think that's reasonable.
Absolutely, and I'm thinking even more than that. The contract will be, hey, you can come onto our team for a year, be DH for basically the entire year, and see if we can make playoffs. I mean, he's going to go to a contending team, but now that I think there's more teams in the question of, hey, if we offer you a small non-committal deal for you to come out here and just slug and get and kind of work your value back up, would that be interesting? But I digress. Um, no, this wild card, man, it it changes every day. I mean, you have to go on basically every day to check the
Yeah,
standings because
you
it
have
flip
to.
flops every time.
There's a saying
It's crazy.
on talking baseball where they're like, if you look at this team and without the name, just the roster, like it changes the way you feel about them. And I feel like if you want to talk about a team that you feel best with, you have to go with the Rangers or the Jays, because look at their roster.
Yes, okay, but the issue with the Rangers going down the stretch is their bullpen is
I
awful.
agree. Their pitching is not gonna get it
It
done.
is horrific. Granted, their offense has made up for it in spades during the season. Their offense has been one of the best, if not the best, in baseball. But can you win playoff games that way? I mean, how many times has us, the Dodgers, lost a playoff series because of our bullpen in years
Hey,
past? Only the last couple of years have we really had a bullpen that we can count on. I would say before 2019, our bullpen was,
yeah, absolutely. We
I
had
mean,
Ryan Madsen and Tony Cingrani. If you don't know who that is, that's my point.
it's just it's you. I don't know how much I can count on teams who don't have a bullpen, who aren't able to look at the guy coming out of those gates and say, I can count on him. At this point, Rangers fans are holding hands and praying that Adolis Garcia doesn't blow the game, or Will Smith doesn't blow the game, or anybody else in that bullpen doesn't blow the game. It's crazy.
Like if you look at the Astros, like if you look at just the roster, like it makes it harder to believe in them. But they're the Astros. It's just like I don't know. I think as much as I want the Mariners to win the division, gosh, those Astros are inevitable, aren't they? I feel like I don't know. I mean, they're 3-7 in the last 10, Jacob, but they need to take care of the Royals. They can take care of the Diamondbacks. I don't know. I don't know. I think the odd one out. I think it might be. It's as much as I just gave these two teams hype right now. I think it's gonna be one of the Rangers or the Jays. Because I feel like if you look at, I mean, with the Mariners, you have who might be the runner-up in Cy Young voting, Luis Castillo, who was my pick in the beginning of the season. George Kirby, he's been amazing. Logan Gilbert, he's been amazing. And they've got guys, dude. They've got more guys. But then again, you look at the Blue Jays, and there's Bichette, and there's Vladdy, and there's Kevin Gausman, and just I don't know. I don't think we're gonna see a team clinch until probably next Saturday.
I think we'll have a better chance of guessing who makes the playoffs by just flipping a coin. I mean, genuinely, at this point, I mean, if you're looking at the team that's going in with the least momentum going into this, final week of baseball, you can circle the Astros because they have been horrible the last 10. And losing to the Royals is just unacceptable down the stretch when it's time to win games. Losing the Royals is just plain out unacceptable. But then you got Seattle, who their pitching has been pretty great most of the season. It's their bats that goes quiet sometimes. Their bats that goes quiet, and you look at the lineup and you say these bats shouldn't be going
They
quiet.
shouldn't be going quiet.
They really shouldn't. Then you look at the Texas Rangers and you say, okay, they're the best offense in baseball. How is there even a question mark on this team going through? Well, their bullpen has been utter garbage. And their starting pitching hasn't been that great. And then you look at Toronto and you say, okay, they're probably the best roster as a whole of those 4 teams that we just talked about. But they're arguably the bigger question mark than any of the other 4 because they just don't execute. And we can talk about pitching, we can talk about hitting, they just don't execute, period. Yeah, I mean, you can look at all 4 of these teams and you can go through a bunch of pros, you can go through a bunch of cons. There's so many question marks for all 4 of these teams. It's literally pulling names out of a hat at this point.
Jacob, the Jays remaining schedule. They finish their series at the Rays tomorrow, then Yanks and Rays again. I mean, Yanks, they're doing some stuff. I mean, obviously, congrats, and also we're hoping for a quick recovery, Jason Dominguez, one of the hottest starts to a career, and then he's Tommy John. That's gotta
Yeah,
suck.
talk about a quick flame burning out. I mean, he was there, he was on fire. Everybody in New York was like, "Hallelujah, we've been saved." And
There's
then
something
Tommy John.
here to be excited about.
Yeah, and then sadness, just pure sadness. Sorry, Yankees fans. By the way, it would be kind of fun. Okay, so I did want to touch on this just real quick. I think it's 30 seasons now that the Yankees have gone without a losing season. This year, it's questionable. Now, I forgot who exactly was talking. I think it was involved with Talking Yanks, and their kind of brother podcast team. They were talking about how important it is to not break that streak. I think that's a load of crap. And let me tell you why. Who cares if you get another average season, winning season, if you're not making the playoffs with the team that the Yankees went into this season? Who cares? Who cares if you break a 30-year streak of going without I mean, what of it? What does it matter? I mean, if you don't, cool, that's great. It keeps going. But if you do break it, what changes? Nothing. Nothing changes. First of all, the fans are already livid with how the season went. You already have plenty of injuries. Why would you not shut down any players of value to save them from getting injured right at the end of the season? For a season that's already busted, it just doesn't matter. In my opinion, this streak of not losing seasons in the scope of a franchise means absolutely nothing. So what if you have a losing season? If it means that you can heal up your dudes, get them ready for next season and going in for hopefully a stronger season next season, then what does it matter?
I think it also comes from like a standpoint where like they really want to sign guys like Bellinger, and they're like, I think Bellinger would be more attracted to a Yankees team that's positive, that has something to look for. I mean, if Dominguez stays healthy, you're talking about an outfield of Judge, Dominguez, and Bellinger next year.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but like, what I would say is that as a manager for me and as a GM for me, that wouldn't be important. I wouldn't be going out there trying to win games solely for the purpose of trying to get a winning season. I would be going out there and saying, all right, look, guys, let's salvage what we can from this season. Let's see what we can from these rookies. Let's see what we can get from whoever we need to prove themselves. But other than that, if there's anybody of value that we have counting on going into the next season, we got to get them. We got to get them right,
I mean,
and we can't take a chance. We
they
can't
shut
take a
down
chance.
they shut down Rizzo. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah. What can you do? We have less than 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna save our last question for the last minute or two. Our postseason. So basically, we're gonna have a video coming out this Friday, reviewing this week's games, and then the following Monday for that weekend's games, and then we're gonna have a series preview for each individual series in the playoffs and a series recap. And so that's basically how we are hoping to operate for the postseason. We're excited. And speaking of a postseason, Jacob, one final topic with the remaining time we have left. It's not a big one. I feel like this is a question that we've had a lot of fun talking about this year. Who wins the East? Because if you wanted to look at it right now, the Tampa Bay Rays are a game and a half back of Baltimore. Baltimore has dropped 2 of 4 already to the Guardians. Ugh. They face Nationals and Red Sox to end the season. Okay. Rays face one game against the Blue Jays, 2 against the Red Sox, and 3 against the Blue Jays. Who do you have, Jacob?
Give me the O's.
I agree. Give
Give
me
me the
the
O's,
O's.
man. Give me the O's. They're a young, fun team. I think they've got what it takes to bounce back, and I just think the Rays have suffered too many losses, to injuries, to nonsense, to really get it back. Obviously, they'll still be in the playoffs, but I really think the O's are gonna take the division.
You kind of have to believe in that. I mean, if you want to talk about pitching, I mean, obviously Tampa Bay's better, but the O's lineups have been more explosive. Felix Bautista, his injury is going to be interesting. Cano has not cut it out for them as a closer in his absence, so that might change their whole aspect of how they approach this postseason. But they're doing it, man. Gunnar Henderson, probably going to win Rookie of the Year. He's been outstanding. Santander is just there's just a lot of things, man. I feel like a lot of teams were like, especially with the introduction of the new rules and everything, a lot of fans were like, "How is this season gonna go?" And I feel like I've heard a lot of people bash on the season as like an overall, and I think honestly, I feel like I've really enjoyed this season overall. I think there's been a lot more. It's been a wacky season, full of a lot of different teams you thought would make it, who didn't make it. It's gonna be interesting. 1 week left. Today's the 1 year anniversary of Albert Pujols hitting 700 home runs, and you know what? Let's end the video celebrating the great Theo Albert. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Let's Talk Baseball. We'll be back soon. We're excited for the playoffs. You might see me at a potential game. Who knows? Maybe a postseason Let's Talk Baseball vlog. We'll see about that. I'm your host, Michael Herrera, joined by my good friend and co-host Jacob Payne, and we will see you next time.